Part 67. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens. Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 661. Who would be dissatisfied with such a person? Not to mention, they also heard about what Suliang did during the period after that. Although I don't know what kind of shocking things Suliang did. But the strength of this senior brother is unfathomable and unmatchable, even the elders themselves said just now. With such a senior brother leading the way, are you still afraid that something unexpected will happen this time? It's simply impossible. Then, everyone almost regarded Suliang as their idol. Even the eyes of those little junior sisters were sparkling and their emotions were very complicated. Suliang was even more uncomfortable with this, just like when he faced the pursuit of a group of junior brothers and sisters in Tiandao section. There is absolutely no clue what to do. But, seeing his master walking in front and having a great time, Suliang sighed and could only let it go. As long as your master is happy, everything else is not that important. Go all the way. Soon. Wanqing turned to look at Suliang. My dear disciple, there is danger ahead. It's your turn to take action. Nodding, Suliang walked to his master. With his current strength, if his master can sense it, he can naturally sense it too. He clearly sensed that there was a strange aura approaching not far ahead. If you feel it carefully, it seems a bit close to the abyss. Although Suliang was a little surprised that the aura of the abyss would appear here. But if I think about it carefully, it seems to make sense. This seems to be a mysterious ruins about ancient times. In the ancient times, when hundreds of abyss tribes invaded, it is normal for the aura about the abyss to exist, right? And the reason why the other party is too powerful is that after so many years, even an ordinary person who does not know how to practice will inevitably accumulate strength and become stronger when he is in a place with sufficient spiritual energy. Not to mention that he is already strong. Facing the direction from which the aura came, Suliang slowly drew out his long sword, the majestic sword intent accumulated in it. Seeing Suliang's appearance as if facing a formidable enemy, all the disciples of Fukang Dao sect were a little confused. It's really strange, what's ahead, why does it make the senior brother so cautious? They said there was danger, but they didn't feel it at all. Can be followed immediately. Waves of roaring and loud noises appeared, and the powerful and majestic pressure suddenly came, almost making all these disciples collapse. If Suliang hadn't taken action in time, he could have stopped this coercion. I'm afraid some of these disciples died on the spot. But facing such a powerful opponent, Suliang just slowly raised his sword and struck out with one strike. Moment. The powerful sword energy disappeared in a flash, and the opponent who was attacking was turned into powder directly under the sword. This scene. All the disciples who saw it were dumbfounded. They did know that Suliang was strong, but who would have thought that Suliang could be so ridiculously strong? They couldn't even face the enemy directly, but they couldn't survive for a second under Suliang's sword? Is this a dream? There was silence for a moment. Immediately, cheers suddenly broke out among the crowd, and everyone shouted Suliang's name. To this, Suliang could only smile awkwardly, feeling very uncomfortable. After the danger was resolved, everyone continued to move forward. Along the way, no matter what danger he encountered, Suliang would kill it with one sword. Even some things that even the elders thought they couldn't deal with were just a sword to Suliang. Soon, everyone met someone from another sect. And at this moment, a disciple from another sect is cracking a trap by chance. Seeing Wanqing and Suliang, the Taoist master immediately panicked as if he were facing a formidable enemy. Master Wanqing, this is a competition between the juniors, you and I don't have to end up, right? He is very clear about his own strength, although he is considered a relatively powerful existence among the Taoist masters. But to Wanqing, his strength is nothing at all. To this, Wan Qing nodded. Don't worry, I understand, this is a fight between juniors. Immediately patted Suliang's shoulder. My good disciple, I leave it to you. See this. The Taoist master was even more confused. Isn't this right? You don't play on your own, but the one you want to play on has a stronger aura than mine. If he were to take action against a group of juniors, even he couldn't stop Suliang's moves, let alone these disciples. How can this be done? The Taoist master hurriedly shouted. Master Wanking, this is an internal matter within our sects, and we cannot ask for outside help. Who asked for foreign aid? Wan Qing glanced at the Taoist master with confusion. This is my disciple, my senior brother of Fukang Dao Section Y, he can't take action. Chapter 574 Chapter 573, Your Majesty, the Empress, do you need your husband to apologize? This time, the Taoist master was completely dumbfounded. He had no way to refute Wan Qing's words. Of course he had seen and known Suliang, so he naturally knew Suliang's identity. So, there's absolutely nothing he can do to stop it? Then, of course, Suliang split the disciples' organs with one sword and got a chance. That's all. Under the leadership of Suliang, Fukang Dao sect overcame obstacles all the way, and nothing could stop them. It stands to reason that I have obtained the most and greatest benefits in the secret realm. To this, after coming out of the secret realm, a group of disciples of Fukang Dao sect gathered around Suliang, chattering non-stop, not showing any arrogance at all, and expressing their respect to Suliang. Even some junior sisters looked at Suliang and felt something was wrong. In a word, senior brother is invincible. Chapter 873 Heading to Daxia. After solving the trouble with Fukang Dao sect with Suliang, he rested for another day. Wan Qing took Suliang and left Fukang Daozong. Speaking of it, this incident is really interesting beyond my expectation. Wan Qing nestled in Suliang's arms and couldn't help laughing when she thought of everything she had experienced in that secret realm. Why haven't you noticed this kind of thing before? Although they are all disputes between juniors, they are also low-level battles. But when I play it, it is surprisingly interesting, as if I have experienced a time when I was weak again. There is a lot of unexpected fun in it. Is it because he's around? Probably so. Seeing him blocking the front and leading her forward, scenes from the past appeared before Wan Qing's eyes one by one, making Wan Qing unable to help but smile happily. Sure enough, as long as you are with him, no matter what you do, it is very interesting. As long as you are happy. Suliang had a faint smile on his face. Although I don't know what fun it is to bully children. But since my master is so happy, let's just think of it as fun. Anyway, we are bringing our master out to play. As long as our master is happy, everything will be fine. Think about what you have experienced these past few days. First, he danced in the peach blossom forest with his master, and then returned to Fukang Dao sect. Although the time was short, it was a very novel experience and I had a lot of fun. Next, are we going back to the Holy Land? My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 662. Suliang then asked curiously. Calculate carefully, is it time to sing songs next? Although Suliang didn't know how his ladies negotiated, and his master didn't admit it at all, but after going through 3 people, Suliang had some experience. Of course I can make a rough guess. But, according to the character of his master, it is still unknown whether Cao Ji can be successfully brought here. After all, my master has always been very domineering. This is a headache. What are you going to do in the Holy Land? Don't go back. Wan Qing shook her head, took over the control of the flying sword, and flew in one direction. We're going over there, there's something that needs to be taken care of. Just handle an event? Or is this just an excuse? Suliang had no idea what his master was thinking, but since he was already here, he had no other choice but to follow his master, right? However, the more he followed his master's direction, the stranger Suliang felt. Why do you feel that the scenery around here is a bit strange? Although he had only experienced it once, given Suliang's cultivation level, his memory could be said to be quite good. It's impossible to remember it wrong. The direction we are heading now is basically the direction of Daxia. That is to say, my master is sending me towards Daxia now. What's in Daxia? Yang Kaoj and Qin Wanyu all followed him from Daxia to the Holy Land, right? There was no need to guess, Suliang could figure out the result. Do you think it's strange that I can let you go so easily? Wan Qing raised her head, kissed Suliang lightly on the lips, and then said with a smile. But these words made Suliang a little embarrassed. Although I thought so in my heart, it was still very embarrassing for Master to know what I was thinking. Without waiting for Suliang's answer, Wan Qing was not surprised and just smiled. If the next person is Kinja, I won't give it to her. My own niece and so on, if she is cheated, she will be cheated. But if it's that girl Kaoj, it will be very difficult for her as a teacher. Wan Qing rarely showed a hint of distress. Obviously I still want to continue playing with you, but that girl Chao Ji is also very well behaved, and I can't bear to take her place. So, Master, you have admitted that you have a plan, right? The corner of Suliang's mouth couldn't help but twitch, and then he hugged his master. There will be opportunities in the future, Master, we don't have to rush now. Yeah, that's it. Wan Qing smiled and nodded, he would be by her side every day, every minute, and every second. So, what can I do in these few days? Give it to Kaoj. Chatting along the way. Soon. Then we arrived at Shengjing. Looking at the increasingly prosperous Shengjing, Wan Qing drove Suliang off Fijian and waved her hand. Go find Chao Ji. She has been back to Daxia from the beginning and has been waiting for you. Don't keep her waiting. Okay, Master, please be careful along the way. Suliang nodded and couldn't help but remind him. To this, Wan Qing just waved her hand and didn't care. Danger, etc. The only ones who can threaten her in the world today are 11 Hang and Ji Hongchen, right? However, these two people are almost becoming sisters now. What else could be dangerous? Watching his master go away. Suliang felt it, and soon, he felt Yang Kaoj's aura in the palace. Calculate the time. Kaoj should have just left the court now. How about giving her a surprise? And Yefei. This girl has been rarely seen since she took others to the Holy Land. I really miss it. After all, they are all his wives, so of course Suliang will remember everyone. If Yang Kaoj hadn't said that Daxia must be guarded by someone, and Yefei's strength was indeed a bit weak, he wouldn't let Yefei stay alone in Daxia. These days, she has really worked hard. While thinking wildly in his mind, Suliang landed in the palace. Immediately. At a glance, he saw Yang Kaoj, who had just entered the hall and began to deal with government affairs seriously. Yefei, as the guard of Yang Kaoj, has been guarding the door and is very conscientious. Suliang walked forward and hugged Yefei from behind. Suliang whispered in her ear. Thank you for your hard work, now you can rest. Hearing Suliang's voice, Yefei was startled subconsciously and almost fought back on the spot. However, the next moment, she recognized Suliang's voice, and she froze on the spot. Su, Mr. Su. Turning around, Yefei looked at Suliang in confusion. Am I dreaming, or is it because I didn't have a good rest yesterday? Girl Kaoj, aren't you even allowed to have a good rest? Suliang smiled helplessly and rubbed Yefei's head randomly. And you, After not seeing each other for a few days, you started calling me Mr. Su again. This can't work, the relationship has faded. No, no. Yefei hurriedly explained. It's just that I didn't expect you to come back suddenly. While talking, Yefei buried her head in Suliang's arms. I'm happy, really happy. I haven't felt the warm breath for a long time. I feel so at ease and I like it so much. It seemed like he just took Lang Jun and left secretly, leaving His Majesty aside. Whether His Majesty is happy or not will be discussed later. But then, the sound of Ying Chao's song sounded in the hall. Yefei, you. Halfway through the words, Ying Chaoj immediately smiled as he looked at his husband. You're here. Why are you here so early? Ying Chaoj asked curiously while packing up the things in front of him. She originally thought that her husband would not arrive until tonight or even tomorrow. After all, it's Sister walking in front of me, so it's normal to occupy your husband for a while, right? After all, she has the biggest thigh in the family. What else can she do? Of course, she has to endure it. But I didn't expect that Sister Wan Qing would be able to send her husband over so quickly. If this is the case, then you can completely ignore the government affairs you still have to deal with. After all, now she only handles government affairs while she is waiting for her husband. As the Empress of Great Xia, she handles government affairs only when she is bored and has to deal with her duties. After all, judging from the current situation in Daxia, it is actually okay for Ying Chaoj to not care about anything. The ministers can naturally handle everything. And considering Ying Chaoj's current strength and prestige, no one dares to make any small moves. The strength of his own emperor's force has directly exceeded the sky. With one sword strike, no one in the entire Great Xia can stop him, and he can even command all the secular dynasties. Not to mention, behind the emperor, there is a man who can command the power of both good and evil, which is close to the entire world. How unafraid are they of death that they would think of doing something secretly? I don't have the guts at all. Coupled with Yefei's supervision, Ying Chaoj has no worries anymore. So, it's perfectly okay to leave government affairs behind and go play with your husband or something. I had nothing to do, so I came earlier. Suliang said with a smile. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 663. Are you still busy now? Otherwise, I will come to you later. No, I'm fine. Ying Chaoj quickly refused, threw everything aside, stood up. Let's go and hang out. Immediately. He held Suliang with one hand and Yefei with the other, and walked out of the palace. Hey, Your Majesty, do I want to go too? Yefei was a little confused, didn't he still have to guard Daxia? It's not easy to meet Mr. Lang once, of course we want to go together. Ying Chaoj said seriously. Don't you miss Lang Jun? In the past few days, she had heard Yefei chanting her husband's name several times. If you calculate it roughly, it's only a few hundred times a day. It can be said that I miss it quite a lot. As for why she didn't tell Yefei about Suliang's arrival. Of course the book is going to give this girl a surprise. But where are we going? Suliang asked with a smile. I'm not as familiar with Daxia as you are, so you just lead the way. That's right, where are we going to play? Ying Chaoj stopped and thought seriously. Although Daxia looked quite big, he was so familiar that for a while, he couldn't think of anything interesting to do. And just then, a minister hurried over and said to Ying Chaoj anxiously. Your Majesty, the banditry in that area is getting more and more serious. I hope Your Majesty will make a decision soon. Bandit trouble. Yenkeoj raised his eyebrows, a little surprised. Today's Daxia can be said to be a time of great peace and prosperity for the country and the people. It is normal for the people to live and work in peace and contentment, not to pick up things on the road, and not to close their homes at night. How could there be such a thing as banditry? And didn't I give an order for General Li to handle it? Why, this isn't enough. Your Majesty, before General Li arrived with his men, he was intercepted by the horse bandits and returned in defeat. Now, he is waiting for His Majesty's fate in the palace. I'm not in a hurry about being angry or anything like that, but a mere horse bandit actually has such strength and brains. Yenkeoj frowned and thought. From the appearance of this group of horse bandits, to the people he sent later, they returned defeated. How do you look at this? Why does it feel wrong? Why don't we go take a look together? Suliang suggested. I have nothing to do anyway, so why not do something serious? And Suliang also felt that something was a little wrong about this matter. But unlike Yenkeoj, Suliang had some vague thoughts. It seems, when dealing with Abyss before, was Keoj's performance too eye-catching? Because they were dealing with Abyss before, and Keoj's personal strength was too strong, those people did not dare to act excessively even if they were dissatisfied. But after Yenkeoj left, they started to take action. After hearing Suliang's words, Yenkeoj thought for a while, then nodded and said, "Good. Since my husband wants to go see it, let's go together. Anyway, with the current strength of my husband, he will definitely not be in danger, right?" Then Yenkeoj said to the minister, "I know, I'll go take a look later. Here." The minister saluted, hesitated, and then saluted Suliang. "Thank you, Your Majesty." As soon as these words came out, Suliang almost burst out. What happened to the royal husband? Although this is indeed the case, it still feels a bit strange when I first hear this name. But Yenkeoj didn't know what Suliang was thinking. An imperial husband made her extremely happy, so of course he gave her a reward. These rewards are due to your kind eyes. Accept it with peace of mind. Immediately, Suliang, Yenkeoj, and Yefei set out together. Yenkeoj held Suliang's arm, looked at Suliang's strange expression, and said with a smile, "Don't be unhappy, Mr. Wang. The emperor's wife is also very nice to hear. What am I so unhappy about?" Suliang shook his head and gave Yefei a strange look. "It doesn't matter if Keoj is happy, what else do you have to be happy about, girl?" But Suliang didn't know that Yefei had already made up a series of stories in his mind about my man being the emperor's husband. It can be said to be full of ups and downs and heart-wrenching. Under the three people's full speed. Soon, the three of them arrived at the place occupied by the horse bandits. Seeing people coming and going below, Suliang narrowed his eyes. Sure enough, this is no ordinary horse bandit. Lang Jun, what do you mean? Yenkeoj asked curiously. In her eyes, these people below all wore very ordinary clothes, and their weapons were good, but they were only good. This is exactly what a horse bandit should look like, right? Without waiting for Suliang to answer, Yefei said, "Your Majesty, no matter the armor and weapons on their bodies, or every move, order, and prohibition, these people have received formal training, and they are also among the elite." As soon as these words came out, Yenkeoj immediately understood. How could a group of elites who had received formal training become horse bandits? And there have always been many soldiers in Daxia. These people are not from Daxia at all. I just feel like there's something wrong here, that's it? Yenkeoj looked astonished. And immediately after, Suliang also added on the side. Moreover, there seems to be some opportunity in this mountain. In it, Suliang clearly sensed the rich spiritual energy. Release your breath and suppress everyone. Immediately, Suliang landed on the mountain with Yingqiao and Yefei, and went straight into the largest tent as if they were in a deserted place. And outside, they were a group of so-called horse bandits who were lying on the ground, having difficulty getting up, or even passed out. Arriving at the camp, he gathered around a group of people sitting in front of a round table. Suliang gestured to Yingqiao and asked Yingqiao to ask, "Whose people do you all belong to?" Yingqiao stood with his hands behind his back, his expression cold and full of majesty. At this moment, she no longer had the soft and clingy look she had when she was around Suliang. He has completely become a majestic and domineering qualified emperor. Are you the empress of Great Xia Ying Chao Ji? Someone recognized Yingqiao's identity and said in disbelief, "How is this possible? Doesn't it mean that you have left Daxia and will never come back at all?" As soon as these words came out, everyone present panicked. The people behind them finally dared to send them out for action only after they were sure that Yingqiao would not return to Daxia. Since they brought people into Daxia, the operations along the way have been very smooth, and to this day, a lot of things have been done in Daxia. He also defeated a general from Daxia before and almost captured him alive. Such actions may not be able to shake the foundation of Daxia, but at least they can curb Daxia's development. And this is exactly the purpose of the people behind them. After all, since Yingqiao ascended the throne, under the leadership of a powerful emperor, Daxia has become increasingly powerful. Even after fighting against the Abyss together, Daxia has reached its peak in terms of strength and popularity. Almost no one in the secular dynasty in the world can rival it. Chapter 575 Chapter 574, An Unforgivable Conspiracy. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 664. Naturally, many people will be wary and want to take action against Daxia. It is almost impossible to shake the foundation of Daxia, but at least we must curb the development of Daxia. With this thought in mind, the beings behind these people all began to take action. Among them, there may even be many forces from the world of immortality joining in. But no one expected that Yingqiao would come back at this time. We all fight for ourselves. Someone immediately reacted and shouted at the top of his lungs. Yingqiao, as the Empress of Great Xia, you are still sitting on the corpse. How many days have you stayed in that position since you came to the throne? Humph, you are in a high position and you only care about your own freedom. Of course you don't know how difficult our lives are. To this, Yingqiao didn't even bother to say a word to him. Although he is not often in Daxia, Yingqiao has always been concerned about Daxia's situation. Today's Great Xia is probably far more powerful than any previous generation of emperors. By using this reason to respond to Yingqiao, does it mean she thinks she knows nothing about Daxia? I ask you again, who is the person behind you? Yingqiao asked lightly again. With her full momentum, her majestic and domineering imperial aura made it extremely difficult to even stand in front of her. I wanted to kneel down on the spot and reveal everything I knew. And as Yingqiao asked again, everyone understood the fact. Yingqiao must have obtained some evidence or information to be so sure. That being the case, for them, it seems that one person's stubborn resistance will not be of any use except to arouse Yingqiao's anger. In addition to bringing danger to the beings behind them, they themselves may not be able to leave here alive. I said. Someone immediately couldn't hold it any longer and shouted loudly. Your Majesty, I am. But the words are not finished yet. The attendant behind him drew out his dagger and stabbed him in the back of the heart. Going straight to the point, it was obvious that he had no intention of letting him survive. However, just when the dagger was only an inch away from the man. However, the follower only felt as if a mountain peak was blocking him in front of him, and his dagger could not penetrate even half an inch further. Want to kill someone in front of me? Yankeoj looked at the follower calmly. Do I allow you to act? The words fell. With a wave of his hand, a powerful force burst out from the singer and bombarded that person. Moment. The follower was knocked out and fell to the ground. He didn't know whether he was alive or dead. With Yankeoj's current strength, among all the secular dynasties, there is almost no strong person who can block her moves. This is absolute strength. See this. Someone quickly backed away and shouted. Sir, if you don't take action now, you will wait until later. The words fell. In the shadows behind everyone, a figure suddenly appeared, stabbing Yankeoj with a dagger in his hand. Looking at the intensity, it was obvious that this person had been hiding there for a long time before suddenly taking action. After careful perception, this person's strength has actually reached the peak of the immortality realm. For Yankeoj's strength at this moment, using a peak immortal realm to deal with her is obviously enough attention to her. However, needless to say, Suliang is still here, even if only Yankeoj's own strength is already enough to deal with the transcendent existence. Immortality realm. She didn't take it seriously at all. Just when that person kept trying his best to win the song, Suliang's figure suddenly appeared in front of Yankeoj and blocked the man. I was still wondering when you would take action. Suliang looked at this young man at the peak of the immortality realm with an indifferent expression. Did you not expect that you would lose your composure so quickly? The attack was blocked, and the assassin's first reaction was, of course, to evacuate in a hurry. However, just when he wanted to take action, he felt that all his actions seemed to be blocked. The whole person was imprisoned in mid-air, and it was difficult to move at all. It is said that the world of immortality must not interfere with the secular dynasty, so which sect are you from? Suliang pointed a finger at the assassin's eyebrow. Give you a chance to speak out yourself and save me the trouble. This moment, the assassin felt his whole body trembling, and a certain death crisis enveloped him, making him dare not refuse any of Suliang's requests. After a while, Suliang and the others walked out of the tent and let out a long breath. Sure enough, they are the ones behind it. Yankeoj said angrily. I obviously didn't provoke them, why would they come to provoke me? During the interrogation just now, those people easily explained some things. Behind them were the secular dynasties surrounding Daxia. And the person who assassinated him was a disciple of the Shang sect. One side wants to curb the development of Daxia, and the other side seeks Daxia's power, so they naturally come together. It's just a conspiracy. Suliang said with a smile, taking Yankeoj and Yefei to a deep pit. The opportunity he sensed before was right here. It seems that they also discovered this place. Suliang glanced down and saw that the inside had been dug very deep, and it was very close to the location of the opportunity. Even there are still many so-called horse bandits unconscious inside. They didn't have time to escape when Suliang was under pressure just now. Obviously. Before Suliang and others came to the end, these people had already discovered the opportunity below and wanted to get this opportunity in this way. However, but they have never thought that they alone can really obtain this opportunity. After all, even Suliang felt that the spiritual energy in it was very strong, and no matter what was in it, it must be of great importance. How could such a place be without danger? After all, there are only a few safe places like the spiritual liquid that Suliang and Qin Benjiao obtained before. Most of the opportunities in this world are accompanied by great risks. If Suliang and the others had come a few days later, they would have really allowed these people to open this passage. It is estimated that by then, Suliang and Yankeoj will not need to deal with anything. The danger in this opportunity alone is enough to cost them all here. The absolute gap in strength cannot be made up by quantity. He waved his hand and threw out all the unconscious people inside. Suliang jumped in directly, pressing his hand on the ground, feeling the distance to that opportunity, and nodded with satisfaction. It's very close. Basically, it only takes Suliang's light punch to open the passage connecting the two places. This saves us a lot of trouble. After sighing a little, Suliang raised his hand and punched him. After a burst of shaking sounds, a huge cave suddenly opened, leading directly to the deepest point in the mountain. Cao Ji, Yefei, come down, we have found this opportunity. Suliang shouted to Yingqioj and Yefei who were waiting above, and jumped in first, wanting to check the situation inside. However, what appeared in front of Suliang was a place that looked like a space passage. In recent times, Suliang has been traveling frequently between the real world and the abyss, and has become very familiar with this stuff. Almost instantly, it was judged that there seemed to be a small world behind the space passage. It was like the small world Suliang and Mu Qingqian had visited before. Before Suliang could take a closer look at other places, Yingqioj and Yefei had already jumped down from above. Hey, there is such a place here. Yingqioj looked at everything around him and said with some surprise. I haven't even noticed it. Immediately, she looked at Yefei beside her. Yefei, do you have any impression? After all, they are the royal family. They rarely leave the palace. After that, they directly ascend the throne, which makes it even more difficult to move around in the Great Xia. With the memorials reported from various places and some sporadic information, it is still very difficult to discover a secret place. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 665. Yingqioj didn't know, it seemed normal. But Yefei is different. She often travels around Daxia to help Yingqioj do some things. Of course, she is more familiar with Yingqioj than Yingqioj. However, Yefei also shook his head. No impression at all. If it weren't for the accumulation of thousands of years in the secret realm sealed in the mountain, I'm afraid there wouldn't be this level of spiritual energy concentration. Suliang smiled and explained. If you haven't lived on this mountain for a long time, it would be difficult to find it. It's normal for you not to know. Immediately, he put his hand into the space passage and tested it. After confirming that it was passable, Suliang asked. How about we go in and take a look? Of course I have to go in and take a look. Yingqioj nodded naturally. Exploring a secret realm with his husband was a rare experience. Unlike Qin Binjao, who grew up with Suliang, Yingqioj rarely had this kind of experience, and of course it felt very novel. Faintly, Yingqioj was still a little excited. Although it is a rare time, I have been dealing with all kinds of troubles with my husband, and I have no time to play at all. But this opportunity to explore a secret place with my husband is also very interesting. And the other side. Yefei was also very excited. She usually spends very little time with Suliang. Now as long as I can be with my husband, I will be happy no matter what I do. Then, when I saw my ladies, they all agreed to come down. Suliang took the first step and stepped into it. After a moment of spinning, a silver brilliance flashed through. When Suliang, Yingqioj, and Yefei came to their senses, everything in front of them made them frown subconsciously. Why do you feel like there is no chance to exist here? Yingqioj said hesitantly. What he saw was a desolate and dark place. Although the aura was rich, there seemed to be no sign of life. There is simply no such earth-shattering and dazzling style as those when amazing opportunities are born. Ends this month. Chapter 576 Chapter 575, An Opportunity to Win Cao Ji. That's right, Lang Jun, has anyone been here already? Yefei couldn't help but ask. With her cultivation and strength, she didn't notice any sign of opportunity here. It's just that your perception range is not enough. Suliang shook his head and pointed to the deepest part of this small world. There is something very suitable for Cao Ji. Very suitable for me. Yang Kao blinked, somewhat confused. If I practice it myself, it's no different from others, right? Why would Mr. Lang say it's very suitable for me? Where is Yefei? If I can use it, Yefei should be able to use it too, right? I can't figure it out at all. To this, Suliang shook his head and didn't say much. Let's go in and take a look. I promise, you will be surprised by what's inside. After hearing this, Yang Kaoj became even more curious. But I see my husband looking like he is exploring on his own and it is impossible to give you an answer in advance. There is no way to win Cao Ji and Yefei. What else can be done? Of course, we can only speed up the exploration. If today's husband can say something very surprising, then the opportunity here must be extraordinary, right? At this thought, Yang Kaoj and Yefei became even more excited. Go, go, go. Alone, Yang Kaoj and Yefei took Suliang's arm and led Suliang forward. And to this. However, Suliang pulled Yefei behind him and let Yang Kaoj walk in front. The road ahead is not safe, but generally speaking, it is within the range you can handle. So, unless I encounter a particularly dangerous existence, I will not take action. Yeah, I know, this is also a good opportunity to practice. Yang Kaoj nodded, not having the slightest objection to her husband's arrangement, full of confidence. Don't worry, I won't let you down. My husband is already so strong now, I can't afford to be too weak. I usually practice seriously, but now, it's time to test my practice. The tyrannical posture reappeared. Yang Kaoj killed the dragon-like beast in front of him with one palm, and returned to its original state. Easily. Although the strength of this ferocious dragon-like beast has reached a transcendent level. But with Yang Kaoj's current strength and cultivation, it would not be easy to deal with such an opponent. It's really strange. Why do all the ferocious beasts here seem to be dragons? Yang Kaoj carefully observed the beast that had been killed in front of him, and was very puzzled. Along the way, all the ferocious beasts she encountered were existences with the characteristics of true dragons. At first, there might just be some scales, dragon horns, and vertical pupils. The further you go, the more powerful beasts you encounter, and the more dragon characteristics they have. Now, the ferocious beast in the Sea of Suffering in front of her is almost the same as a dragon. Except for some features that show that this thing is an ape, it is basically the same as a dragon in other places. What is most puzzling to Yang Kaoj is, this ferocious beast seems to have something like a true dragon's luck. It actually has the same origin as her Tyrannosaurus posture. When she kills a ferocious beast, this weak bit of true dragon luck will escape into her body, allowing her to absorb it and increase her strength. Now, along the way, Yang Kaoj's strength has grown a lot. Even if he doesn't get the last chance, this increase in strength is enough to benefit Yang Kaoj a lot. And after she digested all the opportunities this time, the Tyrannosaurus posture can be further improved. Keep going and you'll get the answer. Suliang said with a smile, but did not clear Yang Kaoj's doubts. Immediately, looking at Yefei beside him, who was applauding Yang Kaoj, Suliang said with a little apology. Sorry, this opportunity is really not suitable for you, so. That final opportunity was indeed very suitable for Yang Kaoj. In fact, no one except Yang Kaoj could use it. And the intensity of the ferocious beasts along the way was beyond what Yefei could handle. Otherwise, Suliang will not keep Yefei with him all the time, but will let her and Yang Kaoj train together. Although Suliang has his own reasons. But bringing two people together only allowed Yang Kaoj to obtain various resources along the way. Yefei could only watch this kind of thing from the side. Suliang still felt a little sorry for Yefei. However, before Suliang could finish what he said, Yefei stopped him and said with a smile. I understand. Lang Jun doesn't need to explain so much to me. Although he didn't stay with Suliang for a long time. But having known each other for so long, and even liked Suliang for so long before, how could Ye Fei not understand Suliang? If he really prefers someone, then it's not him. I will find a way to make it up to you later. Suliang said apologetically, but what he got in exchange was a gentle smile from Ye Fei. At this moment, Yang Kaoj had returned to Suliang, holding Suliang's arm and asked curiously. Speaking of which, I have always forgotten to ask Lang Jun, why did Lang Jun let those people go? After the previous interrogation, Suliang asked those in the camp to leave on their own. As a price, he only asked them to take a word with them. Certainly. For those men who stayed outside, Suliang would certainly not allow them to leave. Until this moment, those people were still suppressed in place by the sword formation Suliang casually arranged, waiting for Suliang's subsequent disposal. How can you, Daxia, offend all the secular dynasties and one emperor? Suliang rubbed Yang Kaoj's head. Even if you have this strength, you can't act so domineeringly. Otherwise, you can only be like that overlord, conquering the world and taking it into your pocket. At that time, even with the help of Suliang and others, this will definitely not be a simple matter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 666. So, it is better to put them back, show strength and then show mercy. On the contrary, you can completely subdue those dynasties and make them completely surrender. You can also get a lot of benefits. As for that Shangzone, Suliang has already reported his name. The previous fight with Fukang Dao sect in that secret realm was not a secret in the first place. It is already a taboo in the world of cultivators to meddle in the secular dynasty at will. If the Shangzone doesn't retreat despite the difficulties, Suliang can also choose to help them retreat despite the difficulties. All in all, there is nothing to worry about. I see. Yang Kaoj suddenly nodded. Actually, if it were just her, she wouldn't be able to think of this. But after all, my husband is by my side, and when we go out to play with our husband, isn't it normal to have an empty mind? I won't think about so many troublesome things. Chatting and exploring all the way, the three of them soon arrived at the deepest part of this secret realm. This is. Looking at what was sealed in a huge crystal barrier in front of him, Yang Kaoj was shocked. It turns out to be a dragon vein of luck. Although it is already incomplete and mutilated, its strength is much weaker than at its peak. But how could Yang Kaoj, who had been exposed to this kind of power many times, see it wrong? This is the manifestation of a dragon's luck. In this way, Suliang's words and even the abnormalities along the way can be explained clearly. A dragon vein of luck is indeed very suitable for Yang Kaoj, and only Yang Kaoj can use it. As long as you get this thing, whether it's strength or dragon posture, Yang Chao Ji can quickly improve. As for the dragon-shaped ferocious beasts along the way, it was clearly caused by the breath that had been escaping from the dragon's destiny for countless years. But what makes Yang Kaoj very puzzled is that this is clearly Daxia. Why is there such a broken dragon vein luck that does not belong to Daxia? He seemed to sense Yang Kaoj's doubts. Suliang came to Yang Kaoj and explained. Perhaps this was a dynasty before Daxia that was specially sealed and preserved before it was destroyed. Do you intend to use this thing to allow the descendants of the royal family to gain strength and regain their glory? But after so many years, the power of this thing has been lost to this point, and it has not been taken away yet. Come to think of it, all the descendants of that dynasty are gone, right? Or, completely lost to everyone. With your current strength, there is no way you can completely digest it. Suliang opened his hand, and when the sword intent burst out, a sealed sword formation took shape at this moment. I will seal this and leave you with the authority to control it. You can just digest it slowly. Yeah, don't worry, I won't be greedy for credit. Yingqiao assured Suliang, and then he put away the dragon vein luck. Can be followed immediately. But Suliang discovered something new under the luck of the dragon vein. The existence of this thing immediately surprised Suliang. Something suitable for Yefei was found right now. Leave from the secret realm. At Yingqiao's request, Suliang sealed the secret realm again. All the benefits inside have been taken away, but there are still a lot of vicious beasts inside. Even the weakest one still has the strength of the dragon transformation realm. If he keeps wandering in the secret realm, he might be able to come to Daxia sometime. And even the weakest existence among them is definitely not something that the people nearby can deal with. If the mountain had not been hollowed out before, even if these ferocious beasts broke out of it, it would be difficult for them to come to the present world. But things are different now. With this hole existing, even if Suliang blocks it, it will definitely be difficult to seal it completely. Therefore, although the possibility of this is very low, to be on the safe side, it is better to completely seal off the secret realm. I never expected that such a magical thing could exist in such a secluded and uninhabited place. Yingqiao said with some emotion. The dragon vein luck she got, whether she slowly absorbed it and turned it into her own use, or integrated it into Daxia's dragon vein, all have a great effect. Chapter 577 Chapter 576, Lang Jun, you really need to take a good rest. Although I only received this dragon vein luck this time, the harvest has been huge. And the other side? Yefei also nodded, and then said curiously. Your Majesty, do you think there are still many opportunities that have not been taken advantage of in our country? While talking, she subconsciously rubbed a jade-like object in her hand, with a sweet smile on her face. This is what Suliang got, the opportunity that belonged to her. It was the spiritual liquid that had been condensed and liquefied after countless years of dragon vein luck. It is different from ordinary spiritual liquid. Among them, there is some aura of dragon vein luck mixed in. Although it is not as good as that of Yingqiao Singer, after absorbing it, it has endless magical uses and can greatly enhance her strength. The method of using this spiritual liquid is also very simple. You only need to swallow such a small drop during practice, and Yefei's practice speed can be increased 1,000 times. Such treasures are actually of great use to both Yingqiao and Suliang himself. No matter how powerful you are, who wouldn't want such a quick, convenient, and side-effect-free method of substituting your strength? But Suliang gave it to her directly without hesitation. For Yefei, it doesn't really matter what this thing is or what it does. The most important thing is his feelings and his feelings for himself. After countless years of accumulation, of course there will be many opportunities, and what people have discovered is only a small part of them. Suliang said with a smile. No matter how powerful a person is, it is impossible, and there is no need to take away all these opportunities. You should always leave some opportunities for others. Seeing her husband expose her thoughts, Yefei stuck out her tongue. Just thinking about it? And following your husband to look for opportunities or something like that, only once is really not enough for such a happy thing. I simply didn't have enough fun. After rubbing Yefei's little head, Suliang continued. Moreover, opportunities are just gifts from nature, or legacy from the strong. For example, if you and I randomly take out some collections and throw them out, it is a big chance. Judging from Suliang's current collection, he does have such qualifications. Hearing this, Yingqiao and Yefei blinked cutely, and then nodded in unison. Having said that, it seems to be true. Why do I suddenly feel that something that has always been mysterious, a great opportunity, or something, suddenly seems out of place? Looking at each other, The two couldn't help laughing. On the way back, the three of them strolled around, not looking in a hurry at all. Originally, this time I went out to have fun with my husband, and even handling things and exploring the secret place were incidental. Now that I still have time, of course I have to go shopping. While passing by a forest. However, the three of them discovered a clear lake in the forest. The lake is surrounded by forests and is quiet and peaceful. The sunlight is blocked by the trees, making it a little colder here. Yingqiao pulled Suliang and Yefei to the lake and said in surprise. I didn't expect that there is such a scenery here. Sure enough, when you have nothing to do, you should go out for a walk. Every time, you can find a different surprise. Mr. Lang, why don't we stay here? Yingqiao said to Suliang very happily, his eyes full of expectation. Think about it carefully, the last time it was like this, the last time there was such an opportunity, it was still in the Fuxi abyss. Although the time that has passed is not long, there are really too many things that happened in it. Just thinking about it, it feels like it's been another year. Now that I have encountered such an opportunity again, of course I cannot let it go. To this, of course Suliang would not refuse, nodded, and said, okay. However, Yefei on the side was a little hesitant. Your Majesty, Lang Jun, is this too? Although I have already spent time with His Majesty. But after all, she didn't have much experience yet, so Yefei was still a little scrupulous and shy. Come on, it's fun. Yingqiao didn't care what Yefei was saying. Taking Yefei's hand, she was about to jump in the direction of the lake. Your Majesty, don't, wait for me to change my clothes. Yefei hurriedly said, she came out this time with all her clothes. If it's gone, there's no need to replace it. Hurry up, I'll go in first and wait for you. Yingqiao smiled at Yefei, and then jumped in, leaving only a few dragon robes still flying in the air. The other side. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 667. After setting up the sword array, Suliang looked at Yefei who was still hesitating on the shore, walked forward, hugged Yefei and asked with a smile. What's wrong? Do you have any concerns? It's just that I'm not used to it. Don't worry, Lang Jun, I'll be fine. Yefei smiled reluctantly. If that doesn't work, we can go back first, don't hold on. Suliang said with a little worry. I won't force it. Yefei replied firmly, how could it be possible to disappoint Lang Jun and His Majesty? See this. Suliang nodded and entered the lake first to find his wife who had been waiting for him there for a long time. After the two waited for a long time, they heard the sound of rushing water. Turn around and look. I saw. Yefei finally came to the lake. However, but he soaked his whole body in it, leaving only his little head, hiding far away, looking at Suliang and Yingqiao. See this. Suliang subconsciously wanted to go over and bring this girl over. However, Yingqiao pulled Suliang back. Don't worry, Mr. Lang, this girl will come over by herself later. This is a bit bad, isn't it? Suliang said hesitantly, of course he knew what his wife meant. But seeing his wife's determined look, Suliang didn't say anything more. Really? Just when Suliang and Yingqiao were practicing swordsmanship at a critical moment, Yefei finally couldn't help it and came closer. It wasn't until the evening of the third day that Suliang returned to Shengjing with Yingqiao and Yefei. The ministers of Daxia had become accustomed to this and did not even try to find Yingqiao and Yefei. Nature. Although there is no supervision from Yefei, with the prestige of Yingqiao and Suliang, naturally no one dares to have any inappropriate thoughts. Until late at night. Suliang held Yefei in his arms and Yingqiao on his back, and they landed in the palace together. Starting from tomorrow, can I give you a few days off? Yang stretched out his little head from behind Suliang and said to Yefei, "It's time for you to take a good rest." After all, they are all her sisters, so Yang naturally has no reason to continue calling herself me. Although it is still the relationship between His Majesty and the female general. But Yefei seemed to understand this truth. In the past few days, the awe he had towards Yang had decreased a lot. No way. Anyone who sees His Majesty being treated like this by his husband, begging for mercy in various ways, and being extremely gentle and well behaved, will hardly feel any awe anymore. As for rest, Yefei didn't want to, but there was really nothing he could do. Ever since I met that lake the afternoon before yesterday, His Majesty took his husband and started practicing the dual cultivation method. After watching for a moment, Yefei couldn't hold it in anymore and joined in. Then, it was out of control. Lang Jun didn't know how many times he wanted to stop, but His Majesty didn't listen at all. I don't know how many times I said that I was in death, but His Majesty never let him go. Even later, Yefei wanted to escape secretly, but Yang just caught her back. Although I really like this feeling, it's already swollen. Now Yefei feels that her whole body is soft and weak. It's a bit difficult to even stand, let alone walk and work. It simply can't be done. But think back to the past few days. You and your husband really understand you completely from top to bottom, left, right, front and back. After you go back, have a good rest. Suliang said helplessly while walking towards Yang bedroom. You too, you've been a little crazy these past 2 days, haven't you ever thought about taking care of Yefei's feelings? However, before Yang could speak, Yefei blushed and whispered. Actually, I actually like it too. After hearing this, Suliang immediately shut his mouth. They don't mind it themselves, so what else can they say? I have absolutely nothing to say. Place both of them in the palace. Suliang lay between the two of them, holding their hands. Go to sleep. Yang nodded and closed his eyes. But soon, Yefei on the other side suddenly woke up. Lang Jun, no, I really can't do it anymore. Suliang was stunned for a moment, then realized what he was doing and looked at Yang Keoj. I know, I'm going to sleep now. Yang took his hand back with regret. It seemed that Yefei was really in trouble, and she didn't pounce on Lang Jun. A bit disappointed. After Yang calmed down, the palace fell into silence for a while. However, soon, snapped. Suliang gave Yang a violent shudder. Chao Ji. I know, I will never do it again. Yang stuck out his tongue and stopped his hand again. Forget it, it seems that it won't work tonight. Early the next morning, Suliang had just finished dressing when he was kicked out of the palace by Yang. According to her words, her time has come and she can no longer occupy Lang Jun. Although I was very reluctant to part with it, this was something the sisters had agreed upon, and of course I couldn't break the agreement. Even if that person is Qin Wanyu, she can't break the agreement. Well, you can't violate it. Yang also spent a lot of effort to convince himself. Then, after leaving the palace, Suliang went straight back to Qin Benjao's mansion. Chapter 578 Chapter 577, Entering Taoism with the Qin, Are You Teaching Seriously? According to Yang, at the beginning, when she was going back to Daxia to wait for Suliang, Qin Wanyu had already come back with her. Only, Yang went back to the palace directly, while Qin Wanyu was waiting for Suliang's arrival here. Even if they are all in Shengjing, they must divide their territory well to avoid affecting each other. And then, Yang explained the government affairs of Daxia and returned directly to the Holy Land. She was worried that she would not be able to help herself and find her husband within the next few days. In this case, wouldn't he have violated the agreement between the sisters? You can't do this, absolutely not. Watching Yang Kaoj leave, Suliang slowly came to the door of the mansion, opened the door and walked in. Looking at the familiar scenery in front of him, Suliang felt a little emotional. Since leaving Tiandao sect, he and his wives have been living here. During this period, she got acquainted with Yang Kaoj, Qin Wanyu and Mu Qingqian Tao Yao Yao, and made a lifelong commitment. Thinking about it carefully, during that period of time, although I was not strong enough, all kinds of troubles came one after another. But it was also a very happy time. It's obviously not that long ago, but when I think about it now, I always feel like I'm a world away. Why is it that? According to your own memory. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Wo Meng. Chapter 668. Suliang had a clear goal and walked straight towards Qin Wanyu's room. I just came to this small courtyard. Suliang heard a melodious sound of the piano, echoing in the yard. The voice is sad, but it also has a hint of tragedy, and it turns over and over again, as if it contains a complete story. Closing his eyes and listening carefully, Suliang could feel the changes in the story. Inexplicably, why does it feel a bit similar to myself and Yuji? After a long time, the sound of the piano paused, but the lingering sound lingered for a long time. After thinking about it for a long time, Suliang became emotional. As expected, he was worthy of the elegance of using the lute to enter the Tao. Even he was greatly affected by this piece of lute music, and a trace of sadness arose in his heart, without any intention to fight. If you play a piece of music like this in the middle of a battle, your opponent will probably cry to death, right? Certainly. If the music itself doesn't sound good, it will never achieve this effect. Just when Suliang wanted to step inside, but he heard Qin Wanyu's expectant voice in the room. Counting the time, your husband will be here soon, right? Should I prepare something? For example, snacks, tea, etc. But my craftsmanship is not as good as my husband's, and I haven't done anything for so long. I'm already unfamiliar with it. What should I do? The king is about to arrive, but apart from this handheld piano music, I have nothing to offer to welcome the king. What should I do? Waiting online, quite urgent. And heard Qin Wanyu's words. Suliang smiled lightly, opened the door and walked in. If you want to prepare, it's my turn to compare things for you. These hands are meant for playing the piano. Leave them to me for cooking and other tasks. Seeing Suliang suddenly appearing in front of him, Qin Wanyu was very surprised. Mr. Lang, why are you here so early? She thought Yang Kaoj would delay things for a while. Although she has a very good relationship with Yang Kaoj now, Yang Kaoj will definitely not do anything to trick her on purpose. But this is her husband. Qin Wanyu understands her desire to stay with her husband for a while. Kaoj has returned to the Holy Land, so I will naturally come to find you. Suliang said with a smile and sat next to Qin Wanyu. Are you still practicing? Well, I've been practicing the piano these past few days. Qin Wanyu nodded. I just want to play the best music for my husband when he comes. So how is the progress now? Suliang asked curiously. Just outside the door, he had already listened to Qin Wanyu playing a piece of music. At this level, Suliang dared to say that few people in the world could surpass it, or even rival Qin Wanyu. In terms of using the piano to enter Taoism, Qin Wanyu has reached the level of a contemporary master. Although her cultivation level is not that strong, she has been immersed in the music and persisted in it for countless years. Who can compare with her? I'm a little dissatisfied. Qin Wanyu pretended to be distressed. Although it feels like I am improving every time I play, the improvement effect is really too weak and cannot reach the standard I want to play for my husband. Hearing this, Suliang was a little shocked. Good guy. You are already so powerful, but you are still dissatisfied with yourself? In this case, how can those who think they have good piano skills dare to say that they can do it? But then, Qin Huanyu's words made Suliang wake up. As expected, I still need my husband to teach me the correct way to play. With a hint of expectation and a sly smile in her eyes, Qin Huanyu smiled happily. Before going to the Holy Land, my husband's help allowed me to directly break through to enter the Tao with a musical instrument. This time, my husband must be able to do it, right? After hearing this, Suliang was silent for a moment. It turns out that my wife is not overly modest at all. Although Yang Kaoj had already brought him here for 3 days and 2 nights. Even in the middle of the night last night, Yang Kaoj did not let him go, and pulled himself and Yefei to continue practicing. As a result, Yefei couldn't get up at all today. But Suliang felt that he was actually pretty good. How could he refuse his wife's wish? Nodding, Suliang came behind Qin Huanyu and hugged her. Holding these soft, boneless hands. Even though she plays the piano every day, Qin Huanyu's hands are still extremely soft, with no signs of wear and tear at all. Immediately, putting his jade hands on the strings, Suliang began to play seriously. However, this effect is far worse than what Qin Huanyu played by herself. There is no way, Suliang can only be good at playing the piano at best, but for someone like Qin Huanyu, who uses the piano to learn Taoism, he is simply incomparable. However, with the warm and fragrant nephrite in her arms, wisps of fragrance lingered at the tip of her nose, her hair brushed by, and the fragrance hit her nostrils. Occasionally, Qin Huanyu would turn her head and give Suliang a light kiss on her lips. At this moment, their minds were not on the strings in front of them at all. Such warm and sweet moments are what the two of them love the most. After a while, at the end of the song, Qin Huanyu nestled in Suliang's arms, with a blushing face and a happy smile on her face. As expected of my husband, he is so good, and the music he can play is even better than my concubine's. Forget it, I still know how much I weigh. Suliang shook his head and smiled. He was just taking advantage of the novelty of the music. After all, there was no such music in this world. But when it comes to playing skills, he is no match for Qin Huanyu. In response to Suliang's words, Qin Huanyu just smiled and shook her head. By analogy, although Suliang's playing skills are not as good as hers, whether it is this novel piece of music or the playing method that Suliang has almost become a habit, Qin Huanyu doesn't know. They all gave Qin Huanyu great inspiration. She is confident that with a little research, her playing skills will definitely improve greatly. Correspondingly, she will go further on the road of using the piano to enter the Tao, and her cultivation will naturally become more powerful. But although there are many benefits, Qin Huanyu doesn't want to study them at this time. Being with your husband is the most important thing. There is no need to rush for cultivation or anything else. Just add this feeling and remember it. Husband, I would like to recall the playing method that my husband taught me before. Qin Huanyu raised her head, kissed Suliang lightly on the lips, and then said, I wonder if Mr. Dao will agree. While talking, holding the peak with both hands, Qin Huanyu almost made it clear in the midst of the turbulent waves. My wife's wish, of course. Suliang nodded and placed his hands on Qin Huanyu's white and smooth shoulders. Clothes slipped off. Qin Huanyu leaned down, pressed tightly on the strings, and was between the strings. She couldn't help but bite her silver teeth even if she played a little. Holding the future with her own hands, gently twirling it slowly and picking it up again, Qin Huanyu buried the future deeply and played a complex but beautiful movement. For a while, the whole mansion was filled with the sound of this beautiful music, but no one was listening. After a long time, Qin Huanyu nestled in Suliang's arms, her eyes still a little distracted. It's really a bit bad. I was a little too involved in playing this time, and I felt a little painful up and down, front and back. But just take a short rest. If that doesn't work, it's not impossible to use real energy to heal the wounds. You must not let this pain interrupt your date with your husband. I finally had the opportunity to be alone with my husband. How could I be disturbed by such a trivial matter? Get some rest. Suliang massaged gently, using his true energy to relieve Qin Wanyu's pain. Sorry, did it hurt you? Shaking her head, Qin Wanyu used all her strength to raise her head and kiss Suliang gently on the lips. No, I'm very happy too. Rather, I really like how my husband looks like this. Whether it's my husband's gentleness or his coldness, I like him very much. After rubbing Qin Wanyu's little head, Suliang glanced at Rajang Sangan outside. What do you want to eat? I'll make some for you. I want to go too. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 669. Qin Wanyu struggled to get up. However, then, he fell back again. I have no strength, I really have no strength at all. You, just have a good rest. Suliang picked up the clothes on the side and covered Qin Wanyu. I'll be back soon. Well, husband, you must be faster. Qin Wanyu warned again, and then closed her eyes. Chapter 579 Chapter 578 The Queen Mother's Big Purchase. After eating, Qin Wanyu nestled in Suliang's arms, feeling satisfied. Although this kind of life with just myself and my husband is not as lively as when I am with my sisters. But it's also very warm and happy. This warm feeling made Qin Wanyu not even want to play the piano. Playing the piano or something, how could it be fun to be with your husband? I have been practicing the piano all the time, and I want to show my best piano skills in front of my husband. I have already demonstrated it just now, and I also played the piano from various angles and in various media. I even played it with my husband. That's enough. The next time is to have a good rest with my husband. To this end, Qin Wanyu, who was full of laziness at the moment, even maintained a posture of having nothing. Anyway, even if you put it on, you'll have to take it off soon, so it's better to keep it like this. All in all, I have convinced my husband today that I will not let him even take a step out of this room. And behind Qin Wanyu? Suliang asked with a smile while using his true energy to relieve Qin Wanyu's pain. Do you have any plans today? You can't really stay in your room all day, right? Suliang didn't care, as long as he was with his wife, it didn't matter if he stayed in the room for 10 days, a month, or even a year. But it was finally just himself and Wanyu, so Suliang naturally had to figure out where to go and what to do. Thinking about it carefully, it seems that he has never been alone with Qin Wanyu. Even when they went to Yin Yang Dao sect together, they used a special method to transfer directly to the space. After all, being in Yin Yang Dao sect is no better than at home. Even if there are only 2 of them, they cannot be so casual. Not to mention, there is a Dong Jun who comes frequently. Speaking of which, it seems that I haven't seen Dong Jun for a long time. Suliang suddenly thought of his wife's best friend. Is she okay now? Hearing this, Qin Wanyu raised her eyebrows slightly, her eyes full of smiles. Why, husband, do you miss Dong Jun? I just thought of it by chance. Suliang shook his head. After all, we are friends. Now that I have thought of it, of course I have to care about it. Dong Jun is very good in the sect, husband, don't worry. Qin Wanyu smiled faintly and nuzzled into Suliang's arms. As for today, I actually don't have any plans. How about we just rest in the room? As she spoke, Qin Wanyu moved her hands toward the future, gently twirling and slowly twirling and picking, as if playing the piano, very skillfully. Why are you like Xiao Ji? Suliang shook his head, smiled, and rubbed Qin Wanyu's little head. Although I feel like my consumption has been a bit higher these days. But my various physical qualities are not for nothing. How could he not satisfy his wife? Suliang lowered his head and kissed her softly, then leaned over. Since this is what the lady wants, Suliang should obey it. Then, until midnight, Suliang K opened the door, hugged Qin Wanyu, and came to his room. No way. Although Qin Wanyu's room is indeed not small, it can accommodate the two of them. But the two have been exchanging piano skills until now. Qin Wanyu's room was already in chaos. If you want to stay, it won't be possible tonight. I can only wait until I get up earlier tomorrow to clean up. Looking at Qin Wanyu, who was sleeping deeply in his arms, Suliang showed a smile. As long as your ladies are happy, everything will be fine. Early the next morning, Qin Wanyu opened her eyes, looked at the sunlight coming from the window, and blinked uncomfortably. Last night I was taught how to play the piano by my husband until very late. Looking at the current sky, I'm afraid it's already 3 o'clock in the morning, right? It seems that I overslept on rare occasions. But thinking about it carefully, I and my husband have nothing serious to do today. It doesn't matter. As long as you are with your husband, you will be happy even if you oversleep. Subconsciously hugging her to the side, Qin Wanyu wanted to relieve the feeling of being able to hug her husband when she woke up early in the morning. However, this time, Qin Wanyu held her in vain. There was not even a trace of residual warmth on the bed next to him. It was obvious that Suliang had been up for a long time. Rubbing his eyes in confusion, Qin Wanyu sat up. Looking at the empty bed beside him, he casually put on a gauze nightgown, then got up and went to find his husband. According to her understanding of her husband, at the moment, her husband is either busy in the kitchen making breakfast or practicing. All in all, you can see it as soon as you open the door. Really? When Qin Wanyu opened the door, at a glance, he saw Suliang lying on a deck chair in the yard, eyes closed, as if he was comprehending something. On the stone table next to him, there was breakfast made by Suliang. Because the real energy has been used to keep warm, there is a wisp of steam coming out of the breakfast, which makes it look particularly warm in the cold winter that has just passed the new year. Hearing Qin Wanyu opening the door, Suliang immediately opened his eyes. Woke up? Why did my husband wake up so early? Qin Wanyu nodded and said, walking towards Suliang in a daze and opening her arms. The other side. Suliang also opened his arms and held his wife in his arms. Aren't you used to this? I just got up when I had nothing to do. Suliang took out a piece of mink fur and put it on Qin Wanyu's body, wrapping Qin Wanyu completely, and then held her tightly in his arms. Now that you're awake, let's have breakfast first. After eating, how about we go out for a walk? Yeah, okay. Qin Wanyu nuzzled in Suliang's arms, opened her mouth. Ah, I want my husband to feed me. Looking at Qin Wanyu, who rarely showed her posture at this moment, she looked like a coquettish kitten. Suliang couldn't bear to refuse her request, so he held her tightly in his arms, picked up the breakfast on the side, and fed his wife bit by bit. While eating, Qin Wanyu asked curiously. Speaking of which, was your husband practicing just now? Yes. Suliang nodded. There was nothing to hide from his wife about such things as cultivation. But, if your husband is so powerful, why do you still need to practice? Qin Wanyu blinked her eyes, seemingly confused. No matter how powerful you are, you still need to practice. You should not be conceited or complacent. Suliang gently tapped Qin Wanyu's nose. Besides, My cultivation has improved a bit too quickly recently. It's time to settle down and fully understand the abilities at each stage. Although the foundation will not be unstable, it is still important to accurately control one's own strength. Soon, the two of them had breakfast, cleaned up, and walked out of the house. I heard that there is a famous musical instrument workshop in Shengjing. Why don't we go and have a look? Qin Wanyu asked Suliang for his opinion. To this, of course, Suliang would not refuse. Walking on the streets of Shengjing, Qin Wanyu said to Suliang excitedly. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 670. I have long heard that there is a famous musical instrument workshop in Shengjing, and it often invites some famous musicians to perform. I have wanted to come and see it a long time ago. But when she was the Queen Mother, Qin Wanyu was only thinking about various conspiracies and calculations, and how to complete the tasks assigned by the sect and the sect master. I may also play the piano in normal times, but the time and frequency are too little, and it is far from worth the big fanfare to go out for this. After all, as the Queen Mother, it was not easy for Qin Wanyu to leave the palace once. Later, after getting together with Suliang, he became more and more interested in playing the piano, and even later became a Taoist with the piano. But he kept following Suliangdong and running around. Even in Shengjing, he only went back and forth between the palace and the mansion, and rarely went elsewhere. Even if you can go, what's the point if you can only go by yourself? Of course, it is best to go to such a place with your husband. After that, even the time in Shengjing was much less. This was the first time she returned to Shengjing since she was recalled by the sect leader Dong Huang. Naturally, there is no chance to go shopping. Therefore, although I have always heard about that place, I have always wanted to visit it. But Qin Wanyu has never had the chance, and it has been delayed until now. I didn't expect that there is such a place in Shengjing. Suliang said in surprise. He had never paid attention to this aspect before, so naturally, he had never heard of these rumors. The two chatted while walking towards the musical instrument shop. Soon, we arrived at our destination. However, the scene that appeared in front of Suliang and Qin Wanyu was really shocking. Is this just a musical instrument workshop? Starting from this musical instrument shop, the whole street is actually a place selling musical instruments and music scores. Many people from all over the world gather here, walking through various shops, searching for the musical instruments and music scores they want. Occasionally, when I meet colleagues I recognize, I can find a nearby restaurant and socialize while drinking, which is very satisfying. At the entrance of every shop, there are several musicians sitting behind the piano table, playing the piano, walking towards the music, and they merge together. Not only does it not feel noisy at all, but it is surprisingly harmonious. After stopping and listening for a moment, Suliang realized that these musicians were all quite capable. It seems that there are many untrue parts of the rumors. Suliang said with some emotion. Rumor has it that it is a very famous musical instrument workshop, attracting all those who love music theory in the world to come and communicate. But now it seems that this is just a musical instrument workshop. I thought it was just one room, but I didn't expect there to be so many. Qin Wanyu said happily, being here made her feel extremely fond and comfortable. Second only to being by one's husband's side and at home. For someone like her, this place can be described as a paradise. After hearing what Suliang and Qin Wanyu said, a passerby stopped and said with a smile. The so-called rumors are just what outsiders say. This place was indeed just a musical instrument workshop in the past, but the instruments in the workshop are exquisite, the music scores are rare but touching, and it is world famous, so it attracted many people of the same profession. As time went by, it became what it is now. Is that so? Pointing to the largest and most crowded shop at the end of the other side, a passerby introduced. That's the most famous musical instrument shop there, but correspondingly, although the things there are exquisite, they are also expensive. Overall, they are worth the money. If you too are not short of spiritual stones and like those rare musical instrument scores, you might as well go and take a look. Thank you bro for clarifying my doubts. Suliang bowed and said goodbye to the passerby, then he looked at his wife. How about we go there directly and take a look? There's no rush, why don't we go somewhere else first? Qin Wanyu looked at the dazzling array of things in front of her. There are so many shops here, there are always some good things. Okay, let's take a walk first. Suliang nodded and accompanied Qin Wanyu as they wandered around these shops, looking for precious and exquisite things among the many musical instruments and music scores. After some searching, I really found a lot. For something as obvious as a musical instrument, it is certainly unlikely that it would be missed. However, the existence of music scores is very subjective. Everyone has different opinions and values. In the vast sea of music scores, it is impossible for anyone to read them all. Therefore, however, Qin Wanyu really found a lot of good things. Soon, after walking around the entire street, the only thing left was the most prestigious store. I have a lot of music scores, but there is still one piece missing. Qin Wanyu said with some distress. There are so many piano scores collected, many of which have a very strong sense of the times, and even some of the playing techniques are not the same as they are now. After thoroughly studying these musical scores, Qin Wanyu is confident that her ability in this area will definitely be greatly improved. So, in terms of music scores, Qin Wanyu's demand is not that great. But, without a piano, it would be a headache. It's like a swordsman who lacks a good sword cannot display his swordsmanship at all. Without a good piano, Qin Wanyu can't play it out of thin air. I remember, didn't I buy a piano before? Suliang vaguely remembered that he seemed to have given Qin Wanyu a special piano, which was exactly the same as the one she used next to Overlord in his memory. Although it is an imitation, it is of great significance to Qin Wanyu and Suliang. Of course I have to keep it well. Qin Wanyu said confidently. If I hadn't played it for my husband, I wouldn't have taken it out at all. I am reluctant to use it in peacetime and in battles, so naturally I am missing a good piano. Nodding, Suliang led Qin Wanyu towards the store. In that case, let's just take a good look. He was just curious, and of course he had no intention of stopping his wife from buying it. Go into the store. Chapter 580 Chapter 579, Fighting for the Piano. Qin Wanyu's eyes lit up when she looked at the dazzling array of musical instruments in the store. Especially the various pianos placed aside, even Suliang, who didn't know much about this aspect, could tell at a glance that these were famous products. Especially some of them have a strong sense of weight. Just by looking at it, you can tell that it must be a famous piano passed down from a certain era. No wonder it's worth a lot of money. Things of this level have always been expensive but not marketable. No matter how expensive they are, they're still worth the money. And after some selection, Qin Wanyu's eyes were fixed on a piano and she couldn't bear to look away anymore. Husband, I want this. Qin Wanyu pointed at the piano and said. Following Qin Wanyu's finger, Suliang looked over. At first glance, this seems to be a very ordinary piano, even too plain. There is no shape or decoration at all, it is just an ordinary piano placed there. But, looking carefully, every part of this piano is just right and simple, but not ugly. Instead, it has a harmonious beauty. Even if he senses it carefully, Suliang can also feel a faint spiritual energy flowing in it, which is enough to prove that it is just a piano that is very consistent with the spiritual essence. With Qin Wanyu's already excellent attainments in the Tao of Qin, when she uses this qin to display her power of using the qin to enter the Tao, her power will inevitably increase a lot. This feeling was just like when Suliang got the holy artifact Reizo. Although this piano is far from a sacred object, it has the same meaning to Qin Wanyu. It is indeed a good thing. Since we like it, we will buy it. Suliang nodded and called the shopkeeper over, asking him to wrap up the piano and plan to pay for it. However, the shopkeeper shook his head, glanced at Qin Wanyu in surprise, and then said, "The guest is able to recognize the extraordinariness of this harp, presumably because he has extraordinary attainments in the art of harp. But my boss has a rule. This piano alone will never be sold. If you don't want to sell it, then why are you putting it here?" Behind Suliang, an arrogant and disdainful woman's voice sounded. "Stop trying to be mysterious and wrap it up quickly for my young lady. My young lady wants this piano." Hearing this, Suliang and the shopkeeper both frowned. Who is this woman? It was obviously Qin Wanyu who took a fancy to it first, and Suliang expressed his intention to buy it first. Did she actually want to rob it? And since the store has rules, just listen to them. Why is he so domineering and bossy? This girl, if you want to get this piano, according to our store's rules, you need to play a piano score. As long as the store owner is satisfied, this piano can be given away for free. The shopkeeper explained politely. Moreover, this young master was the first to take a fancy to this piano. Even if the girl wants to try it, she has to wait for the young master to try it first, right? It's just a broken piano, why are there so many rules?